Hey, it's Kim. Welcome to today's video. If you are anything like me, you have been inundated by the idea of productivity your entire time in the planning community. And while many of the methods and tips and ideas make perfect sense, it can be downright frustrating and also kind of paralyzing to feel like every single moment of your life has to be productive. But what if I told you that maybe we've all been getting it wrong this entire time? And maybe having every single moment of your life devoted to doing is really not what productivity is all about at all. And what if I told you that being productive or understanding productivity as it relates to your daily life is a lot easier than we think it is? Well, that's pretty much what I'm telling you in today's video, so continue watching. So what actually is productivity? According to the Oxford definition, productivity is the state or quality of producing something. The effectiveness of productive effort, especially in industry, as measured in terms of the rate of output per unit of input. An example, workers have boosted productivity by 30%. Okay, and according to Merriam-Webster, productivity is the state or quality of producing something. A lot simpler, indeed. So now that we know the definition, that helps us clearly define what productivity is not. Productivity is not busyness just for the sake of being busy. In my many years of planning and organizing and managing my time, I have fallen into the trap of wanting to make sure that every minute of my schedule and calendar is filled with something. I mean, admittedly, in some seasons of life, it's kind of hard not to do that. Like if you are just really busy with a lot of stuff in general. For example, at one time in my life, I was a graduate student. I had a newborn and I was married and I was managing a household. So that was a time where every moment, minute, second of my life was committed to doing something. And it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. It was not healthy. So it's not at all something I would recommend, but sometimes such is life and you really can't avoid it. During that time, though, I did learn what true productivity felt like and what true productivity meant. It meant that the time I was spending was fruitful. It was actually producing something. So rather than just doing just to say that I'm doing, I'm doing in an effort to create something in the future. In this productivity series, of which this is the first of many videos, I do plan to break down some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way and that have helped me find the balance between busyness and actual productivity. Most importantly, though, have been the mindset shifts that I've been able to achieve or activate in learning all of those lessons. I do invite you to subscribe if this productivity series sounds like something you might be into. Getting back to the topic at hand of being busy for busy's sake, that leads to a life of misery. Trust me, I know. It leads to feeling like everything I'm doing isn't amounting to anything. And it always feels like whatever I'm focusing on at the moment doesn't have my undivided attention. I'm usually distracted thinking about what's coming up next. And then you fall into the trap of multitasking things that really probably should not be multitasked. So things that you're putting together and you're trying to do at the same time, but really you would need to devote your undivided attention and brain power to one of those tasks at a time. So what ends up happening is those multiple things that you've been doing at once end up only getting a portion of you. Like one of them gets 30%, another one gets 35%, and then the other one gets, 35%. That would equal the 100%. So we're basically handing in work or producing work that really doesn't live up to the quality that you could create. Multitasking can honestly set you up on a path for mediocrity. And that's not the type of life I want to live. I don't know about you, but I am mediocre nowhere, okay? That also leads to feeling like done is better than nothing, when I strongly disagree. If we're talking about creating something that doesn't require a lot of brain power and you just have to say done is better than perfect, fine. But if it's something like I'm building towards my future or I'm trying to invest in my health, I don't think done is better than perfect. I honestly think we should be striving towards perfection, but not allowing ourselves to be paralyzed by perfectionism. I know it's a slippery slope. It goes back and forth. But honestly, as long as you feel like you are devoting 100% of yourself to whatever this pursuit is that you have listed on your goals or listed on your calendar, you can really feel confident that you gave it your best. And I guarantee you that your best is perfect. So I do encourage you to refrain from just filling the schedule with things just because you can, and truly try to engage in those items that you're really interested in completing and really interested in accomplishing. And sometimes that just requires you to manage the energy that you have. I actually have a video all about that topic that I'll have links for you up above. But managing, maybe some days it's just not in you and it's not going to be in you, and that's perfectly fine. It doesn't mean that that's a less productive day. That just means that you are being productive in a different kind of way, which I'll get to next. So according to our definitions, productivity is not all output, no input. I strongly believe there has to be sufficient and adequate input in order for you to actually produce. Now, that input that I consider kind of falls under the category of personal development. It does fall under the category of even your health and fitness. Because if you think about it, your personal development, maybe there are more topics that you want to learn that can help you to be more efficient in completing those goals or those tasks that you have listed in your planner or calendar. So using time to read more about those things is productive. Using your time to maybe take a quick class or a quick lesson on like Skillshare or something about this random item of video editing perhaps, it is productive. It's not wasted time necessarily just because you're not physically working towards something. That is the type of thing I would consider input in order to maximize the amount of output you can produce while being productive. And another input that I find the absolute most important, at least for me, is the amount of rest that I take and the amount of breaks that I take. Now that rest could mean I schedule into my week a Wednesday where I am doing nothing or as close to nothing as I possibly can. This, I do feel, contributes to that input so that I can be well rested, I can be restored and refreshed, and I can kind of hit the ground running for the second half of the week. Sometimes for a lot of us, that's what we need. And that is the only way we can truly be productive, is if we incorporate those breaks and those sections of downtime that we might need. The same can be said for just a day, like your daily basis or your daily habits. If you have, for instance, a morning routine, you may schedule in a break right after your morning routine before you jump into work. Essentially, I guess that break might be part of your morning routine, but if you consciously and intentionally take a beat, take a minute to really rest before you jump into the next task. That is also the same as if you are scheduling work blocks into your day and you know that from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. I'm going to do this specific thing, and then from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'm going to do this other thing. Sometimes I do feel it's quite refreshing to throw in a bit of a buffer, so a bit of a buffer time. So if I know, based on previous interactions with myself and with my schedule, that the thing that I'm scheduling from 9 to 11 is really only going to take an hour and a half, then I'll schedule it physically on my calendar from 9 to 10:30. And then the next thing that I want to do for the day, I'm scheduling it at 11. From 10:30 to 11 a.m., that's my break. And that's my business. I do whatever the heck I want. I'm not filling it with anything else. Those are those buffer times that I truly believe even refreshes us just in that like little tiny 30-minute window. So it's not a full day, but it's a little bit of time to decompress from what you just completed, just accomplished, so that you can feel refreshed enough to go on to the next task. So rest is one of those major and main inputs that I feel is required in order to be extremely productive in your output. And sometimes this does take a little bit of knowledge about yourself, knowing how long these specific tasks or focus areas will really take for you. I do have a video coming up all about time blocking and figuring out how to estimate how long things will take in your schedule that I do find will be very helpful in this topic or along with this topic. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I do want to say, try not to overestimate the amount of time it'll take you to do something, because there is this thing called Parkinson's law, which pretty much means as much time as we devote to a task, that's how long it's going to take. So if I say I'm going to film this particular video and I'm going to film it in 2 hours, I'm going to use those full 2 hours to film this video. However, if you really think about it, maybe if I already have the script written, if I already have, the camera set up, is it really going to take 2 hours to film a 30-minute video? I don't think it should. So maybe I should only be giving myself 1 hour to do that specific task, because I can complete it in that 1 hour. So you do want to be realistic about the amount of time you're setting aside for these particular work blocks or tasks. Again, that'll be upcoming information in a future video, but that's just a little example of how managing your time and understanding how much time you usually take can help you to factor in those buffers and those rest breaks that you'll need along your day, week, or month. And seriously, I mean scheduling the rest. If you are a napper and you can nap during the day, girl, schedule in a nap. Why not? Put it on your to-do list even, so that you can check it off, because we all know the psychological benefit of actually accomplishing what's on your to-do list and physically checking it off amounts to a whole lot in feeling productive in your day, week, month, year, whatever. Also, vacation time. Scheduling vacation time is another way to factor in that buffer and that rest and that downtime, because it is aiding towards your overall productivity, 100%. And because we know that it's okay to take breaks, I think this rolls into the next factor that we know about productivity. Productivity is not a race. It's not a race about who can accomplish what faster or fastest, because at the end of the day, my competition is me, right? I'm just trying to be better than the Kim I was yesterday. That's it. I don't care what anybody else is doing. God bless them. But my productivity is for me. It's for me to accomplish those goals and those things that I have on my future outlook. There could be some really, really huge dream, big stretch goals that I have. Maybe they are realistic, maybe they're not, but it's not a race, not always. There's no deadline by which I have to do this extraordinary thing. Like, the world will not end if I don't do it by this date. Setting a deadline for yourself, of course, can be very motivating, and it can get you, kind of light a fire under you to make sure that you're actively working towards this thing. But in reality, it's the deadline that you should be setting. It's the deadline that you should be comfortable with. And if there are outside factors affecting these deadlines, then, a method I like to use is kind of work backwards. So whatever that date may be where this item or this deliverable is needed, I'm going to work backwards on my calendar, on my schedule, to kind of fit in those blocks and those things and those tasks that I need to do, so that I can comfortably get to it by that deadline. I'm not a procrastinator by nature, but I absolutely do not like to feel rushed. So that is why I prefer to kind of work backwards when I do have deadlines imposed by outside factors. So deadlines that I can't control. Either way, that takes it away from being a race, like a race to the finish. I have to hurry up and do it. And it manages it and makes it so that it's all done on my time and on my schedule. Because we all know that doing the most as it relates to productivity only leads to burnout. That's it. Like, I feel like that's the end goal. You are driving yourself crazy, driving yourself insane, just to lead to being burnt out. And that's just not the life I'm trying to live. And I'm hopeful that that's not the life you're trying to live either. And knowing all of this, we can kind of cap it off with the understanding that forward is motion. So it doesn't matter how fast you're moving or how fast you're accomplishing this one thing, as long as you are consistently working towards accomplishing it. That doesn't mean constantly working towards accomplishing it. So you're not using like all of your 24 hours a day to do it, but at least you are consistently, maybe within each 24-hour block, you are touching on something that is moving you closer to that end goal. Forward is a motion, forward is a pace. As long as you are moving, you are being productive. And that relates to anything in life across the board. At least I think it does. So I would say the overall goal with productivity, especially as it relates to our planners and how we manage our lives, is to get things done in a means and in a manner that contributes to our lives and not takes away from it. The productivity we set up for ourselves has to complement our lives and not rule it. That is truly the mindset shift that I think is very important in establishing what productivity means for you. We all have to have our own personal and individualized ideas of what will make us successful. Sometimes it's not the tangible outcome of whatever those productive pursuits have been for the past 3 months. Maybe it's actually doing the work over the 3 months. And then the cherry on top is the tangible goal at the end. Maybe I'm rambling, maybe this makes sense, but I do truly believe we all have to define productivity for ourselves, but also understand what productivity does not have to be. It does not have to be all busyness all the time. It does not have to be all output, no input, and it does not have to be a race. Productivity is what you define it to be. I truly hope today's video was helpful. And if you have any ideas about how productivity has shifted in your life, or at least your perception of productivity has shifted in your life, in your planner activities, in your day-to-day lives, or whatever, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment down below to get the conversation started. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, and if you're new around here, I would love it if you consider subscribing. Thank you so much for following along in today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.